Most investors approach dividend investing with a simple goal: build a portfolio large enough to replace their paycheck. And among dividend investors, few ETFs have achieved the legendary status of SCHD. The promise sounds almost irresistible. Buy a portfolio of high-quality dividend stocks, collect growing income streams, and eventually live off dividends without selling shares. But here's the question most investors never ask. Can SCHD actually replace a real salary? Because replacing a $50,000 salary is one thing. Replacing a $100,000 salary is something entirely different. And once we examine the math behind SCHD's dividend yield, the answer becomes much more complicated than most investors expect. Before we calculate what it would actually take, we first need to understand why SCHD became such a dominant force in dividend investing. SCHD tracks the Dow Jones U.S. Dividend 100 Index and focuses on companies with strong dividend histories, solid profitability, healthy balance sheets, and attractive cash flow characteristics. The ETF currently carries an expense ratio of just 0.06%, making it one of the lowest-cost dividend ETFs available. What makes SCHD different from many high-yield funds is that it doesn't simply chase the highest dividends. Instead, it screens for quality. Companies are evaluated using factors including dividend yield, return on equity, free cash flow relative to debt, and dividend growth history. This process helps eliminate many businesses that appear attractive on the surface, but lack the financial strength to sustain payouts over time. As a result, SCHD has built a reputation as a portfolio designed to balance three objectives simultaneously: income, quality, and long-term growth. But even a great ETF cannot escape the laws of mathematics, and that's where many salary replacement dreams begin to collide with reality. Let's assume an investor wants to replace a $60,000 annual salary using SCHD dividends alone. SCHD's yield has generally fluctuated around the low to mid 3% range in recent years. Recent data places the yield around 3.4% to 3.8%, depending on the measurement period. At a 3.5% yield, generating $60,000 per year requires approximately $1.7 million invested. For a $100,000 annual income, the requirement rises to nearly $2.9 million. Suddenly, the strategy looks very different. Many investors focus on the income produced by the ETF while ignoring the amount of capital necessary to generate that income. The yield is attractive, the dividend growth is impressive. But replacing a salary requires enormous capital. So if current yield alone isn't enough, what makes SCHD such a powerful wealth-building vehicle? The answer lies in something much more important than today's dividend. The most important feature of SCHD is not its current yield, it's dividend growth. The ETF's methodology explicitly rewards companies that have demonstrated meaningful dividend growth over time. Dividend growth is one of the factors used in index construction, helping SCHD maintain exposure to businesses capable of increasing shareholder payouts. This changes the entire equation. An investor buying SCHD today may begin with a modest yield, but over 10, 15, or 20 years, rising dividends can dramatically increase income generated from the original investment. This concept is known as yield on cost. It's one reason long-term investors often experience income growth that far exceeds inflation. The challenge is that dividend growth requires patience, and patience is increasingly rare in modern markets. So, what happens when we combine dividend growth with long-term compounding? Imagine an investor contributes consistently for 20 years. While reinvesting every dividend received, the portfolio benefits from three separate growth engines. First, underlying stock appreciation. Second, dividend growth. Third, dividend reinvestment. This creates a compounding cycle that becomes increasingly powerful as the portfolio expands. Many investors focus on reaching financial independence through a single breakthrough investment. In reality, most successful dividend investors achieve it through decades of disciplined accumulation. SCHD has historically demonstrated the ability to combine attractive income characteristics with strong total return performance, making it particularly effective for long-term compounding strategies. The result is that salary replacement often becomes achievable not because of today's yield, but because of decades of accumulated compounding. However, there's still a major risk many investors overlook. SCHD is an excellent ETF, but it is not a magic solution. One risk is concentration. Although SCHD owns roughly 100 companies, a significant percentage of assets can be concentrated among its largest holdings. Recent analysis suggests the top 10 positions account for more than 40% of the portfolio. Another risk is investor expectations. Many investors see a 3% to 4% yield and assume salary replacement is close. In reality, the capital requirement remains substantial. There is also market risk. Dividend-paying companies can experience earnings declines, valuation compression, and dividend reductions during economic stress. Even quality-focused portfolios are not immune. Finally, investors often underestimate inflation. A salary replacement target that looks sufficient today may not provide the same purchasing power 20 years from now. Which raises one final question. What is the realistic conclusion for investors considering SCHD as an income strategy? Can SCHD replace your salary? Yes, but probably not in the way most investors imagine. SCHD is not a shortcut to financial freedom. It is a long-term compounding machine built around high-quality dividend-paying businesses. For investors seeking immediate income, the capital requirements can be surprisingly high. For investors willing to think in decades rather than years, SCHD can become a powerful source of growing retirement income and portfolio resilience. The real opportunity is not replacing your paycheck next year. It's building a portfolio that may eventually make your paycheck optional. So here's the question. If your goal is to replace your salary with passive income, how much capital do you believe is truly enough? This content is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Always conduct your own due diligence and consult a qualified financial professional before making investment decisions.